Thanks for tuning in live here on the Our Football Network broadcast on Proline TV. I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in as we talk Detroit Lions. And we get an opportunity, of course, whenever we talk about the Lions, to chat with Jeff Risdon from the Lions Wire. Also, of course, you can check him out with the Detroit Lions podcast. Very successful, popular, and the best Lions YouTube channel. How's it going, Jeff?
It's great to be with you. Thanks for the kind words. It's nice to be back.
Hey, when it's accurate, it's accurate. It's good to have you back. And it's always nice talking about the Detroit Lions, especially since the fact that we've been doing this for several years. It's taken us from the depths of a despair, and a typical Lions fan, sort of like where us Jets fans are at this point. And now just maybe one step away, hopefully, from a Super Bowl season if everything goes well. At least that's where it looks like they're going to be for a little while. They've got the right cards. Now it's just a matter of whether or not they can put it all together. Of course, the big news this offseason, though, is the coaching staff changes. So we're going to go into that, talk about the draft, talk about the offseason in a whole. I want to start off with you, though, Jeff, with talking about some recent news. So let's talk about the schedule. Schedule just came out, and boy, there are a lot of big primetime games on tap for the Detroit Lions and some very competitive primetime games starting actually you get the big week 1 game going to Green Bay. That's never going to be an easy start playing at Lambeau. Let's start there. What do you think about, as a fan, what do you think about starting the season off with a rival on the road?
I don't like it. I wish the NFL would not have openers against division rivals, period.
I agree.
I think that's a great time to play a good matchup, as good of one as you can find. You know, the Lions, Pittsburgh would have been fine. Cincinnati would have been great. The Rams would have been fine. I like the idea of starting off and getting your feet wet a little bit, because the first week, it's so unpredictable as it is. And it's not an easy time to figure out what, you're sort of learning what you've got on the fly. And I think division games should be more important than that. I think that, I don't mind week 2 playing one in the division, but week 1, I don't care for that.
Yeah, I agree, because it's so important that you don't want like a tiebreaker coming down to the fact that, well, you played week 1 and you lost, and that wasn't our team. I mean, we didn't even play in a preseason. Basically, that was like our first,
Yeah, and the Lions
game.
With none of the starters will play in the preseason. That's Dan Campbell's way. So, I don't know that about LaFleur and the Packers, but I kind of think that they don't play much either. So that's, I would rather the teams get a couple of games under their belt, or at least 1 week, before you throw them into a critical division game like that. And that's true of any team. If I'm a Jets fan, I don't want to open against the Patriots. I don't want to open against the Bills.
No.
I want to open against Tampa Bay or Carolina or something,
The Steelers, like we are. Yeah. Like big surprise that they're going to match the Jets and the Steelers. Like we all don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback here in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So, but there's the line. The line has already come out. Packers are a 1.5 point favorite against the Lions. And let's hope let's hope nothing changes too much there, meaning let's hope there are no major injuries that changes the lines. We don't like injuries. And obviously after the season the Lions had last year, injuries is not a good word.
Please, no more injuries. I don't want that for any team, but what we went through last year, when the second half of the Commanders game, which the Lions lost in the playoffs, 9 defensive starters out. That's not your team. No. It's impossible. And by the way, Aaron Glenn knows what to do with Aaron Rodgers, so I wouldn't worry too much about that if I were a Jets.
Okay. I like to hear that. It sucked. It just did. That's just the best word to say. Because without the injuries, and I firmly believe it, without the injuries, I think the Lions are gonna win the Super Bowl last year. They were just humming. The only
there.
team that could have beat them would have been the Eagles, but I just thought Detroit was a better team, and we're never gonna know. And that's what is just that's what happens. Eagles didn't get injuries, Detroit did, and there you go. So
yeah, that's right.
Week 3, Detroit at Baltimore. So this is the first of a handful or more of big prime time games. So Monday night at Baltimore, week 3. You must be excited about going up against Lamar Jackson on the road on a Monday night.
At least Justin Tucker's gone. That's good. Astute fans might remember when he kicked a record-setting field goal against us on a Monday night many years ago.
Okay.
That ruined Once Upon a Lion season.
Nice.
Lamar Jackson, he's never easy. He's a perennial MVP candidate for good reason. But, I don't mind that one so much.
No.
It's Monday night. It's a great matchup. All eyes will be on it. The Lions can win that game.
Sure.
I think the Lions can outscore the Ravens. So I'm looking good for that one.
Week 6, Sunday night football at the Kansas City Chiefs. So you get both Super Bowl teams, and you get the Chiefs to start off with in that with that duo. Sunday night, week 6, also on the road.
Great matchup. By the way, the Chiefs are coming off of a Monday night game the prior week, which is something that the Lions get a benefit. They play 5 teams this year that are coming off of Monday night games, which has never happened before.
Well,
so while the schedule looks formidable, there are a couple of little concessions and tweaks that the Lions or that the league gave the Lions, and that's one of them. Playing on a Sunday night, it doesn't make that much difference in the rest, but it's a little bit.
The very next week, it's off to Monday night. So back-to-back primetime games, Monday Night Football, hosting the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Baker's been a tough one for Detroit.
Buccaneers are that's a really good football team. I don't think people outside of the NFC South realize they've been really, really good for a while now. But they have perceived limitations. Are they an elite team? No. Are they good enough to beat anybody? Yeah, they are. That's going to be a tough one. I do like the Lions, in that matchup. But you never look past a team that's won 4 division titles in a row, and got better in the offseason. That's a tough one. And
Baker has also had a good run against the Lions, even in Detroit. So he's not been easy out.
And their secret is they have good lines, and that's one of the reasons why the Lions are good. That makes it for a fun matchup.
And then the bye does come just about mid-season, which is always where you want to see it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, last year was week 5 for Detroit. That was way too early.
Yes, and that really was part of what hurt with all the injuries.
Definitely.
Coming off the bye, getting able to go up against a division opponent is a good deal. Back to the primetime games, week 11, there's the Super Bowl champs once again on the road on national TV. So that'll be a big one.
Yeah, I think every road game that's non-divisional other than one is against a playoff team from last year, which is just insane.
Then an interesting back-to-back Thursday football schedule where Thanksgiving against the Green Bay Packers. You got to love that, really. That's what because how often do you see it's Thanksgiving? They don't want to put they don't want to put these types of matchups because they are so important.
I wish again that they would. So last year's it was. I loved it. Like 2 of the last 5 years, I think they played the Bills and the Texans on Thanksgiving, and those were great.
AFC.
And it's just again. Everybody's going to be tuned into this anyways. Why burn a marquee matchup like what the Packers and Lions should be this year? Because I think the Packers are a pretty good football team.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather, again, obviously you can't play Dallas then, but the Giants maybe. I don't know. Cleveland would have been fun. Battle of Lake Erie on Thanksgiving. That's not much travel for either team. So that, As somebody who grew up,
game.
I grew up in between the two cities. Like it's a pretty easy commute. It's like a little over 2 hours. It's not difficult. That would have been great for the families involved, but that's not what the NFL does. That's why I'm working on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. And also my anniversary is week 1, which is great.
Okay. That's also, wow, great schedule for you.
Yeah,
all right.
it is.
So then the following week, Thursday again, as both the Cowboys and the Lions go back-to-back Thursday, this on Thursday Night Football, home game.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. The Lions have had the Cowboys number, and that's also you might remember Aiden Hutchinson got hurt last year playing Dallas.
That's right.
It was friendly fire. Like, it wasn't Dallas's fault. I don't want to blame him for it, but you better believe he wants to get back at it, because his last play was sacking Dak Prescott and breaking his leg in the process.
Not a good memory.
No.
Week 17, the last primetime game, as we know it right now, is going to be at Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a Christmas game. So we get Christmas there.
On Christmas. Yes. That's
road
Thursday,
game on Christmas. Woohoo!
That's right.
Yay.
And
NFL.
I honestly think out of the teams in the really the teams in the NFC, and I think most people are probably going to feel the same way, because nobody expected the Vikings to have a great season. And if anybody's going to say, all right, well, which team do you think might regress a little bit? I think they're the easy targets, just because of the fact, again, I mean, who would have thought that they would have had that type of season? They are going to be starting, a first-time quarterback. That's something to keep an eye on. But hey, we'll see. And then getting the Bears week 18 to end the regular season will be on the road. So back-to-back road games.
Division road games to end. Chicago being outdoors. Detroit's a dome team. That should be weather.
Oh, yes, Field. Good point.
So that's I will say this, though. I do think that the Lions team is better equipped and better built to play outdoors than the Bears are, ironically enough. But we'll see about that.
I like that approach. There's the Super Bowl odds right now. Detroit, the 5th team at 10-1. And I just wonder and of course you can see that the 2 Super Bowl teams and the 2 championship teams are sitting there.
I mean, Buffalo deserves to be there. Baltimore, I think the AFC is a lot easier. It's more top heavy. So you got the 3 AFC teams there. Like, who else in the AFC is going to challenge that? I don't think so. So I understand the Lions being the second in the NFC makes sense for them. I think they were the second best team, and Washington did beat them last year. They deserve to be on that picture too. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think the only thing, though, is I wonder. I don't know if this is the case, but if the Lions had maintained their coaching staff, okay, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, I would actually feel slighted here if I was the Lions. Not they don't give a crap, but Lions fans.
No, they don't.
Lions fans, I would feel slighted because, again, they were the best team in football for a good bit last year until the injuries came. So I would be like, what are we doing 5th? But losing the 2 coaches, maybe that's why they're 5th.
Yeah, and there's not a track record of sustained success either. I mean, this team hadn't won a playoff game since 1991 before 2 years ago. So I get that. And this is also to Curry betting. The lines are set to make money for the bookies and generate action. You see 1,000 on the Lions right now. That might be that's a more appealing bet for somebody who's maybe in on the Lions than if you put them at 750. That's that you got to look at that angle too. So I would be more willing to drop a dime now on $1,000 than at 750.
Okay. Well, weren't they one of the co-favorites last year, I believe, when the season began?
I believe they were second behind the Chiefs, I want to say.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's why. And look, I also bring that up because honestly, that's where I am going to go this season. I've been just like the team. I've been ultra confident, and I've been there as far as everything that the Lions have done. You've been a big part of educating me and getting me ready for these seasons with Detroit. But I am concerned. I am concerned when you lose two stud coaches like that. And I don't know how you just pick it up and do it again and don't have some chinks in the armor. Now, it was very interesting that the Eagles, of course, everybody's going to point to that. That's going to be the first thing everybody's going to point to. Look what happened to the Eagles when they lost their two coordinators a couple of years ago.
That's right.
The weird thing is that they got off to such a great start.
Yeah.
And it took until the end of the season for them to fall down. That was a little weird. Because you figure if you get off to a good start, well, it should only get better, right? So, we'll see. What do you think?
So the coaching losses are interesting because they replaced the defensive coordinator in-house with Kelvin Shepard, and that's a very popular move. Aaron Glenn actually tried to bring Shepard with him to New York, but the Lions, made sure that he didn't leave. So he was the coordinator in waiting, and had been given some responsibility. So I don't expect fall off on defense. I do expect it to be a little bit different. AG, look, I love AG, and I am thrilled for him to be the head coach of the Jets, and I think he's going to be a better head coach than Ben Johnson will. But I'm not sure that the Lions are going to miss him that way.
Do you think they're going to miss Ben Johnson more?
I do, because and it's not that like Ben Johnson controlled the offense. He was certainly one of the co-architects of it, along with Dan Campbell, and Jared Goff had considerable input on it as well. Where Johnson's brilliance was in the setup and the sequencing of things. Now it drove some of us mad at sometimes some of the decisions that he made, but there was always a purpose for it. Like, he didn't waste downs, he didn't waste plays. He was setting up a formation. The exoticness, the almost incoherence of some of the schemes made them impossible to defend, and I don't think that can be acceptably replicated. I do think that John Morton, who was with the team when that offense was formed in 2022, has come back. And I think that adding David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, who's been consulting with the Broncos, he's going to I think they're going to bring a different wrinkle to it. The biggest question will be, how does Jared Goff handle everything? Because he and Ben Johnson had worked very well together. They understood what one another wanted to do, and helped one another do what they wanted to do. And I don't know that that's going to carry over. Look, Jared Goff's still a very good quarterback, but will he be, only 95% of what he was? And even that, then you're falling from, being a Pro Bowler to being a guy that might get edged up for a Pro Bowl. And that's, that does make a difference in the grand scheme of things. But in terms of like the aggressiveness, that's Dan Campbell as much as it's Ben Johnson. So I don't think that that's going to be huge. I don't want to diminish Ben's influence, but I also think that a lot of the outside forces that are looking in are emphatically overstating how much Ben Johnson ran the offense. It wasn't his offense. It was part of his. He was one of the 3 or 4 donors to the baby that was the offense.
Okay.
So he'll be missed, no question about it. But I do think that they've done as good a job as they can in mitigating anything else, because they brought in people and kept a couple people, Mark Brunell being one of them. Scotty Montgomery, who was the assistant head coach, is back and more. They did a pretty good job of limiting the damage of what losing those coordinators can do. I think as good as they could be expected to do. And Dan Campbell remains firmly in charge of the team, and I think that that's something that won't change.
Out of those donors on offense running the team, was there anyone else other than Ben Johnson that they lost?
Tanner Engstrand a little bit.
Okay.
Tanner was very good at tweaking the minute details with Ben in the offense. But he's they did lose JT Barrett as well. Now JT Barrett was an assistant coach He was primarily actually working with Hendon Hooker as the backup quarterback, but he was a rising star, and they didn't want to lose him when they lost him. So, like, there are losses. You know, Antoine Randall L. as a wide receivers coach was a very respected guy. He's in Chicago now. Like, that's a loss. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, in terms of, like, are we still going to see them? Are they going to run on 3rd and 7 to set up 4th and 2 again? Hell yeah, they are. That's Dan Campbell. Like, that's not changing.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things that it will definitely be a storyline, win or lose. Yes, you know how the media is going to be. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But that's football, is when you win, they're going to raid your staff. And that's why the teams that can do this the longest, put a nice run together for a long time, it's because you just keep hiring good coaches.
That's exactly right. You got to learn how to hire good people. And that's, you know, the Ravens have been a great example of that. The Eagles have been a great example of that. And the teams that are like one-hit wonders and run away, they probably didn't do that very well.
No,
you know, you see teams get pillaged, and you know, I think of the Gruden Super Bowl team in Tampa Bay. Like, all the assistants went away, and so did the team. Like, and that happens. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it finally took its toll on Belichick and the Patriots. I mean, they just get. I mean, their guys just kept getting just.
Yeah, too many of them came to Detroit, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true, and most of them didn't work out, except for the one that's back in New England. So, and that's why he's back in New England, because he's like one of the rare guys that actually had a successful run on his own and was able to coach and beat Belichick with his own team, which is pretty rare.
Vrabel was smart enough to understand that he also comes from the Andy Reid. Like, he played under Andy Reid for a while too, and I think that he put those two hands together very nice. He's a great coach. I still wish the Lions would have hired him instead of Matt Patricia, but that was a show from 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, it all worked out.